What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the FOMC meeting. We have Jerome Powell giving another speech, and this is going to cause some crazy volatility for the entire stock market. So I'm going to go over some hypothetical situations for tomorrow, break down what could end up playing out, and talk about some important levels to watch for on Tesla and the different tickers, and what's going on with the news affecting the markets. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. This offer ends in just 12 hours, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with Tesla in the market. So, when it comes to Tesla, we actually saw a nice day today. Tesla started off very weak. We were talking about this potential drop that was coming, but then the buyers stepped in and they managed to try to hold it up. One level I called out would be the weekly 200 EMA on Tesla. So if you look at the weekly charts, I told you if we broke this 200 EMA, Tesla had the potential to start dropping harder. But if we held it, and if the buyers came back and they started defending it, this could help Tesla hold up. What happened today was Tesla cooled off a bit, then the buyers came back and they tried to push it above this level, and Tesla so far is holding above this key support, which is a decent sign. Now, Tesla also managed to close above 200, which is another decent sign, which tells us that Tesla has potential to try to bounce. But that alone is not everything because Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. He's going to be giving a very big speech, and it is still possible for him to either rug pull the entire market or cause another big bounce. So you always want to be open minded nonetheless. When it comes to the market, however, we saw some interesting stuff. The S&P 500 closed higher for today, and that it logged its first 3-month losing streak since 2020. And this tends to be an anomaly because we tend to not see the market drop this many months in a row. And if we do have 3 months of losing in a row, the market tends to be considered oversold, and we tend to get a bullish month for the next month historically. Now, there are some, rare cases where this doesn't always play out, but in this case, I want to remind everyone that are different indicators out there, such as the McCullen Volume Summation Index, and looking at others are suggesting that the market's in a bottoming process. And looking at the divergences that have developed, I still hold that view that the market is going to see a bullish month for November and it's going to catch a lot of people off guard. Now, in order for us to get more confirmation of this, we have to listen to what the Fed is going to be saying. So that's why I'm going to be very open minded. Now, when it comes to other factors affecting the markets, we just had AMD's earnings. The shares are currently down 4% as of right now. That could change depending on the earnings call. I'm recording this before the earnings call has come out. But for now, the EPS was a beat, so was revenue, but their guidance was a little weak, which is causing the share price to drop. So we're going to be waiting for this. This will have an effect on Nvidia, and there are other earnings coming out too. We have like First Solar and AMD for Tuesday after close. For tomorrow, we have PayPal and Roku, and then for Thursday, we have Apple, which is going to be the big dog for the week. Apple is going to cause big volatility. Now, something interesting for today was Elon Musk was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they had a very interesting conversation. I think there was a video of Joe Rogan shooting an arrow at the Cybertruck, and it wasn't able to penetrate it. So, pretty cool stuff. If you're interested, you can check out his YouTube channel, and that could be very fun. As far as other data goes, we still have some overweight ratings for Tesla by Morgan Stanley and Wedbush. And besides that, the price price ratio is trying to stabilize very close to this zero point 0.5 area. That's where we tend to see some buyers try to defend Tesla. And for now, we're starting to see some defense being played, but there are no guarantees yet about anything until we hear from Jerome Powell. Now, historically, October is a weak month for Tesla. It's only green 35% of the time historically. And that is what happened. I mean, we had a relatively weak October for Tesla. November, however, tends to be green 61% of the time. So I'm hoping for something better for November, especially approaching the Cybertruck event. And then after that, none of this data really matters as much because FOMC is going to have the bigger role in affecting Tesla. With 118 million in volume, not bad whatsoever. So, moving forward, what is going on for tomorrow? Why is tomorrow going to be such an important day? How is this going to end up affecting Tesla? And here's the answer, guys. all eyes are going to be on Jerome Powell's commentary. Everyone's going to be watching this. This is going to be huge. So, what's going on? Tomorrow, the market's going to open, and we might see some volatility for the first 30 minutes to, I would say, about 30 minutes, because when the market opens, we have some manufacturing PMI data coming out for the first 15 and 30 minutes. Then we have some job openings data coming out and more manufacturing data from the ISM. So, manufacturing and jobs numbers are coming out for the first 15, 30, and 15 and 30 minutes. That's pretty much it. And then after all this data comes out, after all the volatility is done for the first 30 or so minutes, I expect the market to become very, very boring, go back and forth, do pretty much nothing for a couple of hours. That's what typically happens during the FOMC meetings. That's what happened for the last 3 or 4 meetings. We just go back and forth, very boring, approaching the two final events for the day. What are they? Number one, we have the rate hike decision coming out and also the Fed's forecast for the projected rates. That's going to be very important. It's going to affect the market big time. So we'll be waiting to see what that causes. The Fed should pause. There's like a 75 plus percent chance they're going to be pausing according to data. It's very, very likely. I think it's closer to like 90% now looking at the market. So there's a very high probability of the Fed either pausing or skipping on this rate hike, not raising again. And then after that, right, the decision comes out at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. At 2:30 p.m., we have the press conference when Jerome Powell is going to be giving a speech. And what he says about the Fed's monetary policy is going to shake the markets. It is unpredictable from my end, so I can't promise anything, and we'll just have to wait and see. So, what does this mean for Tesla? Tomorrow, we could see Tesla drop depending on the data just a little bit, looking at this trend. Then we could see buyers step in, and then we might just see Tesla trade sideways as time goes on. So, very boring price action tomorrow when we start off and we open. Some volatility in the morning for the first 30 minutes, and then just very boring sideways chomp back and forth and back and forth is what I'm anticipating. And then at 2 o'clock p.m., we have the rate hike decision. This is going to cause a very big move for Tesla. If the Fed pauses and their forecast is not too high, this could cause Tesla to bounce and start pushing up back up towards 202.5, depending on where we are, maybe even higher than that. If we get a rug pull, Tesla could come back down towards the 200 EMA on the weekly time frame. So basically, this support right here, which is currently at about 196 in the 196s. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. And then we have Jerome Powell's speech 30 minutes after the rate hike decision comes out. So once again, decision comes out at 2 p.m. Powell's speech with the press conferences at 2:30 p.m. So if Powell, I don't know what Powell's going to cause, guys. I honestly don't know. SPY has a gap down to 410. If he causes the market to sink, that could cause Tesla to come down. If Powell is hawkish and causes a rug pull, if he says something about inflation, we could see Tesla retest 196, if not 193 to 190. If Powell pumps the markets, Tesla could pump all the way back up to 206 plus, if not 210. And if Powell does not say much, and we have very mixed signals, what could happen is we get like a fake dump and then a pump the next day. That sometimes has happened. So honestly, guys, I don't truly know what's going to happen with Powell's speech, but I do lean bullish for the market for November nonetheless. I still hold that view, and I think that Tesla will recover eventually later into the month, anyways. So we'll just be watching to see this very carefully. Now, if Powell pumps the markets tomorrow with the Fed and etc., we could see spot go for that 420. If it breaks, 423 is on the table. I would not rule that out. If the opposite happens, if Jerome Powell and the Fed cause some kind of rug pull, we could see SPY come all the way down towards at least 413.3. If we lose that, I expect this gap to get filled down to this like 410 area into the 410s. We could get a big rug pull depending on what Powell says. Now, there's also the third possibility of Powell and there being like a fake drop. We kind of get like pumped down. We basically tank down to fill the gap, and then we bounce afterwards and just make a full recovery. That's another crazy possibility. Regardless of what happens, all right, I believe the market is going to become bullish for the next 4 weeks. However, I think that by the end of November, we're going to be a lot higher than where we currently are. And I still hold that view. My view has not changed, but it's going to depend on Jerome Powell and the Fed and other factors like that. All right. So expect some high volatility in the morning, sideways price action as time goes on. And then once the rate hike decision comes out, we'll see what happens. It is impossible for me to truly give you guys an accurate prediction with high conviction because I don't truly know about what's going to happen on that at those moments specifically. For the QQQ, if we ultimately get a pump thanks to Powell and etc. And don't forget, guys, sideways price action approaching the same event applies to every stock out there. But if we get a big pump, expect 355 plus and then 356. If we get a big dump, expect this thing to come all the way down towards 345 to fill the gap and maybe even 344. We could even dump first and then bounce the next day. That sometimes happens. It all depends on what Powell says and how the market interprets these words. Nvidia may cool off a little bit tomorrow because of the fact that AMD is so far red. It could change. We'll see what happens with AMD during the earnings call. But if we do cool off, watch 402 and 400 as supports, followed by 395. We'll see if Nvidia bounces. It could definitely bounce looking at the current trend. If we zoom out on Nvidia, let me just show you this trend right here. The weekly is still trying to form a reversal candlestick. We're not necessarily there yet. It's attempting to reverse, but it's all going to come down to Jerome Powell. If Powell pumps this thing, I expect it to come all the way back up to 420 plus. If he gives us the rug pull, it's going to retest this low down here, and it could always like drop and then bounce. That's another possibility. It's very unlikely it's going to like pump, and then crash the next day. That's kind of unlikely in my opinion, from what I've seen historically. So one of those two is possible. I still lean bullish approaching Nvidia's earnings, however, so we'll just have to wait and see. But that's it for now for Nvidia. It all depends on what the big guy Jerome Powell has to say. If he pumps the whole market, including Apple, I expect this thing to retest this channel right here, which could bring it up to 172. If we get the rug pull, it's going to come all the way back down to 168 and 166. And if he causes a little drop, we could kind of like drop and then bounce. It all depends on what Jerome Powell says. What I can tell you with high certainty is that I still believe that Apple's earnings is going to cause another big move for it. But approaching FOMC, expect some high volatility in the morning. That's sideways price action for Apple. And then we'll just have to see what Powell and the rest of the gang causes. That's it for now when it comes to my analysis on TradingView. Just know what the weeklies on Spire not looking that back. It's trying to bounce on the weekly. It looks pretty decent, has some potential. We'll see if it can break the 50 EMA at that 420 area. We will have to wait and see. It depends on the Fed. Now I'm just going to go over a couple of them very, very fast because I want to end this video as fast as possible. Just going forward, IWM is trying to bounce as well in the daily chart and has potential to try to fill this gap and make its way up to 166. That's the bullish case. The bearish case is going to be 161. We will see what Powell causes. Maybe even a dump and pump is possible. It all depends on Powell and the Fed. If Microsoft is bullish, watch for this thing to push up towards 3, right over here, 340 to 342 could come. If we break that, watch for 345. If we're bearish, watch it come down towards 335 and then 332. We could see a dump and pump, or it could go either way depending on the Fed. So just expect some sideways price action and high volatility depending on Powell. AMD is down 4%, so we'll see if this thing could try to rebound or not after the earnings call. As of right now, it's still down. It's still falling right now in the after hours, still very flat. So we'll see what happens. Just want to be patient with this nonetheless and see what happens with earnings. Guidance is not looking that strong so far, so we'll just have to wait and see. The VIX is currently making attempts to bounce. If this thing does bounce like this could cool the market off a bit. But at the same time, you can't forget that on the 4-hour time frame, we happen to have a head and shoulders. So I don't know if this thing is going to try to make a small bounce to cool off the market temporarily, and then this thing starts falling anyways later on thanks to the head and shoulders. I don't know for sure, so we'll just have to wait and see. The dollar is trying to hold up, but one thing worth noting about the dollar is as it's attempting to pump, if it breaks this high, there might be a bearish divergence that establishes, causing more downside, which means the market could still bounce in the future. So we'll just have to wait for that. If we're bullish on Coinbase, expect this thing to test resistance around 80. If it breaks that, watch for a push for 82.5. If we're bearish, watch it come down towards 75. It all depends on Powell. It's also possible for this thing to dump and then pump the next day. It all depends on Powell, what he says, and other factors like that. For Google, if we're really bearish, watch it retest 123. If that fails, let's watch the gap down here towards 123. If we're bullish, watch for 126 plus and then a push for 130. Now, in my opinion, regardless of which way Google goes, I think this is a buy, and I think that this is a little oversold and it still is due for a bounce. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to like buy this thing on dips. I think that this is a really good buying opportunity. I think the drop is very exaggerated because their earnings were really good. They were just a small piece of their revenue that was just not doing as well, and it was just exaggerated. So I'm open minded nonetheless. For Amazon, we're going to be watching if this thing could break above 135. If it does so, watch for 136 plus. And for bearish, it's going to come down towards 130. We will see which way it breaks depending on the Fed. It could also kind of come down to 130, then bounce off the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. We'll just be waiting to see. Now for Meta, we're going to be looking at this on the weekly chart. I saw something interesting. It's still very flat. Meta has not been making a massive move. It's just stuck in its range. And then on the daily chart, you will notice that Meta has a tendency of it's making an attempt to break above this 20 EMA, but it's failed so far. So not looking the strongest, but we'll see if we can get that extra boost to break it. 306 happens to be at the 4-hour 200 EMA simultaneously. If we're bullish, watch for 310 to 312. If we're bearish, it's going to come all the way down towards this support down here. I would say around this 290 area. Now, I'm in the middle with Meta. It could go either way, but we just want to remain calm, cool, and collected and see, will Powell cause like a dump and a pump? Will the Fed cause a crazy move to the downside? I don't really know, guys. I truly don't know. So I gave you guys some projections of which way we could go and what could play out. And all I can really tell you is that look for some volatility in the morning, then anticipate some sideways price action after that as we approach the rate hike decision. And then we'll see what happens after that. I'll be with you guys tomorrow to talk about all of this. So please take care, and I'll see you guys very soon. Enjoy the holiday. If you guys celebrate Halloween or not, please enjoy it and do what you have to do. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you and peace out.